to the May 9th, 2023 Board of Selectmen meeting. This meeting is being broadcast live on Norwood Community Media, as well as being recorded. As is tradition, we will start the meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we've got a few appointments this evening, which is great to have people here, and we're excited. We're going to take care of a couple items first. First on the agenda is a warrant signature update. Submitting notification of reviewed and approved warrant reports signed by the board's representative. Is there a motion to approve? Motion to file made by Mr. Plasko, seconded by Ms. Grow. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Next, the submission of the meeting minutes for approval of the board from the April 25th, 2023 meeting.
Move to approve the minutes.
Motion approved made by Mr. Donnelly, seconded by Mr. Plasko. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. And that brings us to our first appointment. We have the school committee budget subcommittee presenting for board approval to apply for money from the Special Education Reserve Fund to the FY23 budget. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you. So I'm here at the request of the school committee to facilitate the second part of this process. As you know, we have put money into a rainy day fund, which is the Special Education Reserve Fund. This year, we had scheduled or budgeted to pull out possibly $300,000. At this point, we're asking for $150,000. The school committee did approve that this past Wednesday. I have to remember the date, but in order for us to fulfill that, the selectmen need to also vote to move that money out into our budget.
Great, thank you, Dr. Thompson. Do we have questions from the board or comments?
I have one, I have no problem, I didn't make the motion, but just curiosity. Can you draw this down at any time for the votes? And votes can
Yeah, we could come back, I mean,
January.
we can come back January, yeah, and we're kind of in the final throes. We're not quite sure if we'll need the whole other 150 that we had budgeted next year's budget. We had budgeted basically the rest of 550,000. So.
Motion to approve the request, Mr. Chairman?
Motion made to approve the request made by Mr. Plasko. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Donnelly. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
We didn't make it hurt, did we?
All right.
Go Celtics.
Thank you so much. Okay. Next up, we have an appointment for a Hackney application. Mr. Manager, did you see a gentleman outside, Mr. Schuman?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, come on up. Great. Sorry, I didn't see you there.
Yes, sir.
Abdul, correct?
Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you so much.
Should I sit down?
Yep, you sit down and introduce yourself.
Hi. My name is Abdul Shuman.
Great.
I was here, I was looking to get a livery license.
Yeah, and if you could just tell us a little bit about, we have your application.
Yes, sir.
And we just want to hear a little bit about you and your business and your plans in Norwood.
I used to have a Ford taxi license in the town of Westwood up until the COVID hit us. And I give up all the license. And I started, I have a lot of clients that I drive to the airport, lots of them. And part of the Massport requirement for me I have a livery plate right now, but part of the requirement for Massport, I have a paper from them, is I have to either get a livery license from the town or a letter from the town stating that we do not give out a livery license.
Right.
That's where I'm at.
Great. Thank you. Do we have any questions from the board? Mr. Plasko?
Just want to make sure you're aware of the fees, you've seen those,
Yes, sir.
and you realize we're going to approve a business license, but you still need to get approvals of yourself and your cars from the police department, police chief.
Yeah, I mean,
Right, okay.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Schuman, thank you for being here.
Yes.
You had a reference listed, and I did talk to your reference, and they spoke of you very highly. It's someone that you've driven for a long time.
Yes, sir.
So that was really nice to hear, and we
Thank you.
hope that the customers that you have in Norwood have the same experience.
Yeah, like I said, if you go on my website, you can see all my reviews, you know?
Excellent.
Pardon me.
Mr. Plasko?
Yes, sir.
I see maybe a technical error here. You're looking for a livery license, not a taxi.
Not a taxi license, sir,
It
livery
says
license.
taxi on the application.
I may have,
So we want to clarify that, Mr. Chairman, and that we're issuing a public automobile license or a livery license?
Yeah, I think on one of the subsequent pages, it does say livery. He wrote in livery?
I just see the top application. This is what we basically approved the business license.
Okay. And then there's a Hackney vehicle license application.
Yeah, and those have to get approved by the police department and then come back to us. But,
Yeah, so it's livery, right?
it's livery, it's not
Yeah.
taxi, sir.
We'll just make sure, Jess, that paperwork's consistent.
I even sent in, with all due respect, I sent in my registration for my van, it has a livery plate.
Right, we saw the registration, yep.
Yes, sir.
So thank you for that. Any further questions from the board?
Full approval?
Motion approved made by Mr. Plasko, seconded by Ms. Grow. All those in favor of approval?
Aye.
Aye. The chair votes aye, unanimous.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
I
for coming.
appreciate it, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry, I'm just a little clunky with,
Now this one you have to wait for.
so we do have a public hearing at 7 PM for Lewis's, and since we're being so efficient, we'll take up some other business. Can we take the chief?
We're waiting on Chief Brooks to get here. He's on his way, but Chief Hayes is here and Steve Hook from the Regional Dispatch Center is here. We can start with them, and then Chief Brooks will fill in. We can probably get that done in 20 minutes.
That sounds great.
We'll have them go on in. Nice.
Welcome. Thank you, gentlemen
Table, please.
and madam.
I believe everyone knows Lauren Milkey and Steve Hook from the Holbrook Regional Dispatch Center, and this is Chief Wright, who many of us have met, although I do
Yes.
believe this is his first time actually appearing before the board. If you want, we can start. Chief can give a brief update. He has one particular item to report to the board that I think everyone will enjoy, and then we can have a discussion with Mr. Hook, and Chief Brooks should be joining us soon, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
It is more than okay. Great.
Chief, the floor is
Good
yours.
evening, and thank you for having me tonight. We have a really nice story. We had a group of firefighters that were headed to Myrtle Beach, and 6 of them were flying on an airplane, and about a half hour out from Myrtle Beach, a 7-year-old young man had a seizure. His mother was with him. It was the first time he ever had a seizure. Obviously a very scary thing. Our firefighters jumped in action, stabilized the young man, comforted him, his mother, got it, everybody landed perfectly fine. They transitioned care over to the ambulance, and it was, we got an extremely nice letter from the young man's mother thanking us for the outstanding work that our firefighters did there. And I'll quickly, it's Captain Campilio, I believe it was Jeff, Lieutenant Bailey, Firefighter Crean, DeFonte, Rafferty, and Quinn were the 6 members that jumped into action on the airplane ride down. So it's a great, we know we have a great group of people in the town, so it's nice when they do their thing and we have such a great outcome. So just wanted to share that story.
It's nice to hear, nice to give them the credit for what they do, but we've also become kind of numb to it. We expect it. It just happens all the time. They're great.
That's great. Thank you. Excellent.
Quick update on the department, if you want to go into that.
Of course.
We did have a few, per the report, 6 structure fires, but 2 of them had some, minor to moderate damage. No life loss or anything like that. They were caught relatively quickly, so it was, as again, the firefighters usually do. They were there quick, took immediate action, and were able to mitigate the situation right on the spot. So that was great. Overall, we did 504 calls in the month of April. Of those, 275 were ambulance transports, and a whole bunch of other false fire alarm calls, what else do we have? Some water problems, electrical problems, a couple chemical releases, a few brush fires as as you know, the conditions out there are very dry still. We didn't have all the rain we would hoped in the month of April, but it was starting to green up, so things are getting a little bit safer out there. And open burning is now over as of May 1st, which it's always a concern of ours when people are doing open burning in their backyards and don't necessarily attend it like they should. But overall, it was a good burning season, and we're glad we're past it and moving on into summer soon. So other than that, I don't know if there's any specific questions for me.
I'll just make a comment, Mr. Chairman. One of those brush fires was in my backyard, and it wasn't the dry condition. Well, dry conditions certainly contributed to it, but it had help. Not me.
No, really.
Great. Mr. Donnelly?
Thank you, Chief. So I know that just recently, at last night's special town meeting, we had a reserve transferred, or fund transfer for substitution pay, and is there any update that you can give us in terms of the status of those firefighters injured on duty? I think we have 4 that have been out for a while. I'm just looking for an update in terms of what the status is for potential return of any of the 4.
In a kind of general sense, 2 of them we anticipate are going to be a longer term outage. The other 2, I believe one is coming back very shortly. The other one is we also expect in the next month or 2, I believe, to be finished up. They're kind of going through physical therapy and getting back to 100% before they return. So it's always a challenge, but we think we're starting to get healthier, and hopefully we can get everybody back to work.
Thank you, Chief. Just one more comment. I just, this is the first time that you've appeared before us, Chief, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you personally for serving as our interim chief while we were doing the fire chief search. I've heard very good things about your leadership, and thank you for serving us in a time of need.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you. Additional questions for the chief?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Ms. Grubb?
Everyone's covered everything I would have said.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much, Chief. I just had one question about maybe how the fire at the Brockton Hospital, how that's affected your operations, and maybe how you've addressed that.
It's not significantly different, except for the fact that, a lot of that, the people that would go to Brockton are now going to Good Sam, and we go to Good Sam a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We are traveling a lot over, especially into Needham. Many of our patients go to Needham. A few we bring into Milton, the BI Milton, and then the occasional Boston Hospital, et cetera. So it's just a challenge overall. Number one, we have to travel all the way to the hospital instead of having it right down the street. And then the transition time between dropping the patient off, sometimes the ERs are so packed we have to wait and sit there for 15 minutes before we can transfer the patient to the hospital staff. But overall, it's working. Our real challenge is our ambulances, to make sure they stay running. We do have 2 new ones on order, and we're hearing now maybe October is when we may see them. It can't be soon enough. Our current third ambulance is getting a motor replacement right now, and unfortunately the short block that is the block of the motor is on back order, so we're trying to track one down somewhere around so that we can actually get it put back together, so that we can have that spare, so that we can cycle through the other ones for service. We've been occasionally borrowing our neighbor's spare ambulance to get us by in the interim, but that's certainly not a long-term solution. So.
Right. Well, thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay. Should we go
Good
to,
evening.
Sure, Chief Brooks is here, and we also have Steve Hook, if, between Mr. Hook or Mr. and the chief, if they just want to give the board an update on our regional dispatch switch and how it's been going. We'll start with Mr. Hook.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members. I hope everybody's well. You all know Deputy Director Lauren Milkey. Feel free to chime in, Lauren, if I missed anything. So, as the board knows, we assumed dispatch responsibilities for the fire department and answering of all 911 calls on March 26th. It's been going very well. It's busy, but we're handling it well. Of course, there's always going to be a little bump operational stuff that we have to overcome, and we're doing that with the two chiefs have been working very well together with us and the department members. So, as we discussed in the beginning, we purchased some initial equipment to get us started with the dispatch, with the anticipation of putting in some funding for the FY24 State 911 Development Grant, which we did. So we have about $9 million pending in the grant. We should hear about the grant next month. I have met with the 911 director, and it looks promising. Some of the equipment that we're going to replace is a total replacement of your infrastructure, radio infrastructure, police, fire, DPW. That's about $6 million. When I say a total replacement of everything, portable radios, mobile radios, stuff like that. So the other thing that we're looking to do is security measures, access control and cameras at the public safety building, MDTs for both police and fire, fiber, microwave back to HREC. So, we have to wait to the official award, but I think it's looking well, unless something changes in the next month, but I think we're in a good position. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have, unless Lauren wants to add something that I missed.
No, I just want to say thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair and board members. The transition so far, I think, has been great. Everybody's been very communicative. The chiefs, the deputy chiefs, they've been great partners so far, so we appreciate that.
that's great, thank you. Before we open up the board, I have a question. What happens if we don't get that grant?
That's a good question. I don't think we're going to have that problem.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this, the state 911 department has a bucket of money to promote regionalization and start regionalization. This is typically the way it works, is we get the money up first, and then we build out, and then we start the service. Norwood was in a need, so we started a little quicker than we normally would. So I think we're going to see some funding from this, if not all funding, so.
And can I just expand on that,
Sure.
Director? So we are considered priority one in the grant guidelines. We're, I believe, one of, if not the only regional center that has a new IMA this year. So that
I
puts
think
us
you
in
talked
priority
about
one.
that last time we were here. Yep,
Yep.
correct, great. Thank you so much. Questions from the board? Mr. Donnelly?
Sure. So, welcome again. Given your experience with other municipalities that are part of the dispatch center, I'm thinking maybe there's a way of providing us with this information, but are there management level reports that you're able to provide the community in terms of even just on call data, volume type of call, that we could periodically hear from you about, or have
Certainly,
you?
we can provide that. The chief gave it tonight. I was prepared to give it, but
Right.
beat me to the punch.
Okay.
But I can tell you that, we have data on our call statistics and how quickly we answer calls and how many calls we transfer. So we can certainly provide that, and how many runs we dispatch police and fire to.
Okay. And how are you doing from a staffing perspective, given the addition of Norwood to the region?
We're doing good. So we needed to add some staffing. We've done that. We're still adding. I should add that we are anticipating assuming dispatch responsibilities for the police department on August 15th. The chief and I have spoken about that already. And of course, we need to add additional staffing for that. We have started that process in hopes to get them trained up to that that August 15th deadline. So we're doing good as far as staffing goes.
Thank you.
On that turnover or starting up at the police side, you need help, you just mentioned, is there still more technical work going on to make that switch over, or is it still just manpower at this point?
Really, it's just manpower. We're ready to take them on. We just need to train the staff, hire some staff. We've already started the hiring process, so we're almost there. There are some CAD and records management stuff that we need to do prior to, and I know the police department just went through some training the other day, database training to transfer some data over to us, but we're there. I think we're there.
Now, I heard a rumor that the call volume was in half, but I live on Manhattan Street, and 95% of the calls go up Manhattan Street to go to Needham, and I can't see any drop-off. Do you know?
No, I think it's busy as ever.
I think so, too. I just, I wanted to, I guess, diffuse that rumor that,
We actually did have a lull. I actually have these by,
well, maybe that's the time that comment was made then, yeah.
well, for the fire side, the week of ending 4/9, we had 103 medicals. Actually, I got the whole number, 126 total calls. The following week, the 16th, and 126. The following week, 4/23, 114, and then ending 4/30, 109. In the first couple days of the month, we had 30. So it's been pretty consistent. It did seem, they're kind of, for medicals, we were down just a little bit the 2 middle weeks of the month, but overall, the numbers are
I didn't figure they had any
relatively.
secrets of how they get rid of calls.
Well, the problem is we'll have no calls for 3 hours and then 6.5 hours.
Right, right.
Depends on playoff games and TV.
Well, it seems they always go up at sometime, they're either going to Needham or coming back from Needham, 3:30 in the morning. That's when I'm out with my dog, and there they go, hi, guys. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I don't know if you would have heard anecdotally about it, a drop-off and the number of 911 calls being received, but, keep in mind, at least on the police side, that before Holbrook picked up the 911 traffic the end of March, if there was a crash at Route 1 and Dean, like last week, and 4 people called 911, we would field 4 911 calls. Now Holbrook fields 4 calls and transfers 1. They would only transfer additional calls if there's information those witnesses have that we should know about. So that does, the figures are still going to reflect the number of 911 calls coming from Norwood going into the center, but the calls that we receive do drop in cases like that.
Thank you.
Ms. Sparrow.
Thank you. For my part, I just wanted to thank you so much for giving us an update on the timetables. Sounds like everything's moving really great, and I just wanted to mention that I was hearing a lot of positive feedback as I've been talking to people around the town. So just keep up the great work.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman? Thank you. Yeah, and I think the best compliment we can give you is that most people didn't know that there was a changeover, which is what you had said would be the expectation, and I think that's what happened. So thank you for the job that you're doing.
Thank you.
Great. Chief Brooks, thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. I think if I could just add 2 things as we're talking about dispatching.
Sure.
I just know from my conversations with the director when he talks about we're still trying to hire staff. I don't want people to think that all the brand new people that have just been trained are going to be working Norwood calls. We've had discussions about that. He brought up the concept of using experienced, seasoned dispatchers to handle Norwood traffic and so forth, and then backfilling with some newer people. Not necessarily all the time, but I don't want people to think that it's going to be all brand new people that have never done this before. The other thing too is that I'm looking forward to is that, and this is what occurs in cities, and I think we may have talked about this before, is that when the phone rings now at the station, dispatcher picks it up, has to talk on the radio, gets back on the phone, talks on the radio. At a center like Holbrook and in Holbrook, call takers and dispatchers are separate people. So although they may all be on the headphone, although they may hear 911, and the people dispatching Norwood look up and they see the calls coming from Norwood, they're not talking to the caller. They can hear what the caller is saying. The call taker is responsible for the telephone conversation. They're already dispatching police and fire because dispatchers are here, the call takers are here, and they're separate people. That's true in New York City, that's true in Boston, that's true in most major cities. It's just a highly efficient. And we were told going into this, don't make the move because you're going to save a lot of money. You'll save a lot of money anyway. Make the move for the efficiencies. That there's always a supervisor there. That they train just on dispatch matters. And that, for us anyway, for the police, having dispatchers and call takers be separate people. Now, when you're in the field and you call by radio, no, it's 671 Normal Control, dispatch says stand by him on 911. He can't answer you. He can't service you because he's on the phone. You'll never hear that. And likewise, the caller will never hear, hang on, I'm talking on the radio, because they're separate people, because of that division. It's extremely important, and I think it's an efficiency that we're looking forward to.
That results in a faster response.
Yeah, it cuts down response times, that's right, and it's more efficient. When that person's on the phone, we'll keep the caller on the line, you're keeping the caller on the line. The dispatcher is hearing it, but the dispatcher is not responsible for, if you will, staying on the line and talking to the caller. That dispatcher is talking to the units that are in the field. It's just highly efficient, highly effective, much better than what you see in individual cities and towns.
That's a good pitch.
We're gonna take them on the road. We're gonna take them on the road.
Get it off NCM. Thank you. Well, Chief, while you're here, if you'd like to give a departmental update.
Sure, and I know that we've taken up the time talking about dispatching and all, but I'll just hit a few high points. We've changed the way we do parking enforcement in the business district, which I know you're probably aware of, but for the sake of the public, we used to have the beat officer writing back, not too long ago, up until a couple of years ago, writing down all the license plates in the back of a ticket book for all the cars that were parked in the business district, then try to come back 2 hours later, find them on the list, write a parking ticket. If you get called in the middle of it, get called out, that very seldom got completed. Now, of course, with the technology that the town has purchased, it's a little bit easier, but the task is still the same. It's still rotating through the business district every 2 hours and trying to catch the people who are still there. We have started about six weeks ago using traffic supervisors, in other words, so-called crossing guards. And that after their crossing, just one a day, in high-vis clothing, they come out and they do just parking enforcement. The problem with the parking enforcement in the center of town was that there was not sufficient turnover spots. People who own businesses, employees who worked at businesses would park on the street in violation of the requirements, and they would take up all the spots that the retailers depend on for their customers to be able to find a place to park. Once we made this move, we made this change, you could drive through the center of town, and I suggest you can do this today, drive through the center of town and you will see empty parking spots in every block, because the employees have finally been driven to where they should be, which is parking in the municipal lots, which of course the board now offers all day long, no restrictions, and everybody can park there. And that's where we want employees and employers to park. So I think that's been effective, and we're looking to continue that. This was an 8-week pilot project. We're into it about 7 weeks or so, and we will talk to the ASME union. We've already started to extend that and make that more permanent. The other thing I want to talk about is traffic enforcement. Our traffic enforcement, as you probably see in your monthly report, is way up. It's way up from where we were last year, and that's way up from where we were the year before. Of course, it was very low in COVID, but we are doing evidence-based traffic enforcement. We focus on complaints from citizens, the types of violations that cause crashes, and places where crashes occur. So our stops are largely for having a phone in your hand, not stopping for a pedestrian, speed, red light, and stop signs, those kinds of violations, and concentrating in the business district, for instance, where we've had pedestrian crashes, and doing our enforcement there. And even though we've focused on data-driven enforcement, our numbers are still way up. Some of that is driven by a grant that we received that is federal highway safety money, funneled to us by the Department of Transportation, and then it pays us the overtime that we've spent on officers doing enforcement. So if the public has noticed that, and when we're out doing enforcement, at the end of a block of enforcement, very oftentimes we put something on Facebook, and that's not just advertising, that's to reinforce what we're trying to accomplish, to make the roads safer and to make drivers drive more safely. And finally, and you thought I'd forget to mention the puppy, we have a golden retriever comfort dog. We announced it on Facebook today. I thank the district attorney for helping us fund it. It's going to be assigned, or is assigned, to Officer Jeffrey Baguma, who's the school resource officer at the Coakley Middle School. I wasn't always sure that this would be a good fit for our department, but after the murder of Trevor Lawrence, who was a Coakley Middle School student, as you know, police departments from all over the area offered to come and bring their comfort dogs and to walk the school and sit in classrooms and talk to kids and so forth, and they did, and it was enormously helpful. So we decided to do it. Jeffrey came in with a very timely proposal, and we got Golden Opportunities for Independence, which is located in Walpole. We got the dog from them. Jeffrey will be doing 3 hours of training a day throughout the summer, and even then beyond, to make sure the dog is docile and can perform on commands and do that sort of thing. So you see it on Facebook. The next thing to accomplish is to find a name. We're going to name it sometime early next week. Right now, we're still calling it Puppy. It deserves a name, and we're going to do that. We've solicited the public's help. We usually solicit the public's help for all sorts of negative stuff.
Mr. Plasko has some ideas, so.
This time, what's that?
Mr. Plasko has some ideas.
Has some ideas, but we can talk. We can talk.
You have to do that fast. So Jeff's taking it home already?
Oh, we're
I
taking
think
it
he's
home.
got 3 kids, so that dog's gonna be
He's got
named
5.
fast. 5?
He's got 5, yes, yeah, between 8 and 4. He's got 5 dogs. So they've welcomed the puppy with open arms. Anyway, he's also going to send something out to the Coakley Middle School students to get their input as well. We're going to pick a name early next week, so we can stop calling it Puppy. And the dog's going to be in training throughout the summer. So anyway, I know that's on Facebook, but people have seen it. I just wanted to roll it out there. And then if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you so much. Any questions for the chief? Comments?
Nope, thank you.
I just think that the puppy needs a big brother. I think Mr. Plasko can help.
I know he can. He's a
Yeah.
golden retriever aficionado.
Extra walking or playtime. we can
Yeah.
take care of.
Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it, and it sounds like the transition is going really well, so we're excited. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good to see you all. Thank you.
You too.
Okay, that brings us to 7 o'clock public hearing for Lewis's.
Excuse me.
And Jess, you'll read this in, right? Yep. All righty. How's it going?
Hi.
Good. Jess will read the notice, and then you can introduce yourselves and talk about why you're here.
Application has been made to the licensing board of the town of Norwood for a change of officer/director/LLC managers, change of stock interest, and change of pledge of license, stock, or inventory for Lewis Restaurant and Grill, Inc., manager of record, Giuseppe Tropiano, under Section 12, Chapter 138, and Chapter 140 of the Massachusetts General Laws, as amended, for the sale of all alcoholic beverages to be drunk on the premises of 92 Central Street, Norwood, Massachusetts. Description of the premises is as follows: 2 dining rooms, kitchen and patio on street floor, all rooms and patio used for food and drink, 3 entrances and exits. Public hearing on this application will be held Tuesday, May 9th at 7 p.m. in the Harry B. Butters Chambers, room 34, Norwood Town Hall.
Great, thank you, Jess. Welcome.
Hi,
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. If you could introduce yourselves.
I'm Colleen Padden.
Giuseppe Tropiano.
Great, thank you. And talk about why you're here.
Well, I think Jess just laid it out. We're here just to, renew the license and change of stock. And I think that's pretty much it. We don't have any plans to do anything with Lewis's itself. Everything will remain the same.
Yeah, so nothing's changing. I think that's what people are probably mostly interested
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Pretty straightforward. Jess, the application did not seem to be missing anything.
No, it looks complete.
Great. Do we have any questions from the board? Any comments? Mr. Plasko?
Yeah, everything looks in order to me. I just had one thing that jumped out at me as a curiosity on your promissory note and your pledge. It seems like it was signed almost over a year ago. Is that significant?
And what date are you speaking of? The promissory note?
Yeah. It was in 2002.
I don't.
2002?
2000, I'm sorry, where is it now? Yeah, June 2022,
Yeah, so that would be last year.
right.
Yeah, and then of course, I think we were just waiting for the license to come up and
Okay.
transfer.
I didn't think it was significant, it
Yeah.
just jumped out at me that it's been quite a while since that was signed.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Mr.
Still
Donnelly?
gonna have the Lewis burger, right?
Oh, yeah, no, nothing's changing. It's a family transfer, and it was just a change of officers, but everything that we're doing will absolutely 100% remain the same.
Great. And just while we have you here, at our last meeting, we approved the outdoor dining regulations and the continuation of them. If you could just talk, it's not affecting your application, obviously, but about that, how it's been for Lewis's.
The outside dining?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't say enough about the outside dining. Obviously, when it first came about in 2020, we didn't know what to expect, but it was pretty much like restaurant saving at that time. And it's just grown. I mean, because we have that huge, like, one corner there, we kind of tried to make it as welcoming as possible. With the flowers and the sail shades and all that type of stuff. So it's been, it's super popular. We can't wait to get it started again this year.
Great. Excellent.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
You're open to ask the public?
Yeah, as this is a public hearing, if there anyone from the public that has questions or comments? Seeing none?
Motion to close the hearing?
Motion to close the hearing made by Mr. Donnelly, seconded by Mr. Plasko. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. Pleasure of the board.
Motion to approve the transfer of the license?
Motion to approve the transfer license made by Mr. Donnelly,
And the
second.
pledge.
And the
And the
pledge.
pledge.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Sad. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, chair votes yes, unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
All right. Hope you have a very good season.
Thank you.
Keep up the great work. It's beautiful over there.
Yeah, thanks so much. Great, okay, we're rolling. All right. That brings us to new business. And first up is a park request for Father Max, submitting a request from resident Petronella Smith to use the Father Max playground and baseball area for a birthday party for approximately 30 guests on Saturday, June 24th, 2023, from 2 p.m. until 5 p.m. with food and outdoor games. Yes, Mr. Plasko.
Actually, this, if I may, just a question to the manager. This is a couple now that we've had request to use Father Max, and we, particularly myself, push for a site other than the common. So this is, I imagine, administratively, it's been decided this is the best place.
Correct. It seems to offer the most for somebody trying to have something like this and isn't really taking up space that would otherwise be enjoyed.
Yeah, the only concern I did have was that it's probably the tightest spot as far as parking in the neighborhood. So I don't know if there's another field. I mean, I don't have any problem with this field or this application myself, but it just made me think about the field a little more and how tight it is up there.
It usually is. Given that it's on a Saturday, you'll have a lot of people actually parking at the Savage Center, or there's enough overflow parking there that they'll park there and walk right over to Father Max.
Yeah, but it's a good point, Mr.
Do we
Plasko.
direct them, excuse me, do we direct the people? that
We can
like
let
to-
them know.
Instead of using the street to park in the junior high or the Savage Center?
We can let them know.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
No, I think, my daughter plays soccer there for practice, and it's the same issue where,
Yeah.
you feel for the neighbors. There's a former selectman that's a close neighbor too. We don't want to upset him.
We can actually put signage up then on the weekends. I mean, I'd have to make sure I check with the facilities department and the school department, but even put signage up saying on the weekend, additional parking available over at I almost said the Coakley, over at the Savage.
Yeah, I think a lot of people maybe that aren't familiar with that as an option, that would be a good idea. Alleviate some of the congestion there.
So on the
Anything
map,
else?
if they don't know that already, they won't know where it is.
We'll have to have a map, because otherwise we'll have people trying to drive down the walking path, but we can work on something for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else on the matter, Mr. Donnelly?
So I noticed on the application, so the rules and regulations for field number 9, providing the town with a certificate of insurance, and the applicant has circled it and said I had questions about the insurance requirement. The insurance is required,
It is.
so,
And usually somebody can get it through their homeowners. If you can't, most insurance agencies will provide a certificate like this for not too expensive, which if you're not serving alcohol, they're usually very, which they're not, we would not allow that. It's usually not very expensive.
it's, if it goes for approval, we just gotta make sure that the
Correct.
applicant understands that they need to provide the insurance.
Correct.
One more question on our own handling of these. Do we make sure we notify the police and fire that, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay, hearing no further questions, the pleasure of the board.
Move approval?
Motion to approve made by Mr. Plasko, seconded by Ms. Grow. All those in favor?
Aye.
The chair votes aye, unanimous. Great. And Jess, you'll coordinate with the applicant about the insurance. Thank you so much. Item 4.2, car wash request swim team. Submitting requests from the Norwood High School swim team to host a car wash on the municipal lot to benefit their organization on both May 27th, 2023 and July 22nd, 2023 from 8:30 a.m. until 2:30 p.m. Pleasure of the board.
Make a motion to, go ahead, Mike.
I'll motion to approve it.
Motion approved made by Mr. Sad, seconded by
I'll second.
Mr. Donnelly. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye, unanimous. Great. Sorry, my computer's a little wonky. Item 4.3, road closure request, run for a vet. Submitting request for the annual run for a vet 5-mile road race on Saturday, May 13th at 10 a.m., starting at the Norwood High School. Questions or comments from the board?
I'll make a motion to approve and congratulate Ted Mulvihill on being the race honoree this year.
Excellent. Congrats to Mr. Mulvihill.
I hope it's not a surprise to him, because I just blew it a few years.
Motion made for approval by Mr. Donnelly, seconded by Mr. Sad. All those in favor?
Aye.
The chair votes aye, unanimous. Item 4.4, Town Common Request Exercise Class. Submitting request from Marina Becker to use the Town Common for a free boxing boot camp class on June 23rd, 2023, from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. Questions or comments from the board? Mr. Plasko?
Yeah, on the application, it says, hoping to do free class on an arrow. Do you really know what that
I think. the
follows,
arrow-
that arrow?
I think the arrow, my looking at this was that the arrow is pointing to the event date. It was, that she's telling you to look down the next line for the event date.
Which is just a blank, sometime in June.
6/06/23, yeah, there's no,
She's pointing down to there.
Yeah, but 6 of 23, what day? 6 months, June what?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, okay. Sorry.
Jess, did the applicant provide any further detail about, like an email or anything specifically naming a date?
So so the date is 6/23, so we just assumed it was June 23rd. But it appears that, that's a good catch, Mr. Plasko. That's astute. So we should reach out to the applicant and confirm that that's the date, in fact, that they're looking for.
And I note that this is, says they want to give a free class, but I once again am concerned of overusing the common for things that might become commercial. So I hope this is a one-time request and that they're not going to be back on a regular basis, because that would be, to me, business trying to use the public common, and I would certainly be opposed to that at that time.
Yeah.
We've allowed similar activities during COVID when folks had to go outside. I think if it's, to Mr. Plasko's point, somebody wanted to sort of do a class for new home buyers, and we said, that's really not keeping in the fitting of what people do in the common. I think a free kickboxing class or a free yoga class is probably more in fitting, as long as it doesn't become a regular
That's what I said.
one business every single, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 9 to 10, then you're saying, okay, well, now you're just using the space. But
Well-
occasionally, the exposure of the common and people using it, I think, is consistent.
Maybe if we
with
let
its
them, if we approve this, we let them know that we're taking note of it as a one-time request.
Sure.
Right, and on that, Mr. Plasko, I think also we kind of run the risk of them saying, come do this one class, and then they're throwing out all these flyers to do more, so
We can let them know that there's no marketing, even though it's probably implied that, hey, Bob's kickboxing company is doing a kickboxing, sorry,
They're pretty
Bob, bad
good.
example, but they're doing a free kickboxing class, folks sign up. I think as long as the use is consistent with the common and
Yeah.
remains free and.
And again, we usually require insurance,
Yeah.
and even though this is free, I don't think we should consider waiving that, particularly the activity that's being considered. Someone could get injured and want to come after the town, because it's on the town property.
Absolutely, yeah. Jess, can we make sure that the applicant provides the proper insurance, right? Mr. Donnelly?
Do we want to just, since there is no date provided, do we also just move to approve this with the stipulation that whatever date in June the applicant's putting forward doesn't conflict with any other scheduled event on the common?
And who's going to determine that, the chairman, the manager?
I would ask the
Defer to the
manager to do
manager,
that.
defer to the manager.
Okay. Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the application, provided they provide the necessary insurance, and that the date that they are applying for doesn't conflict with any other planned usage of the common.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Grow. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye, unanimous. Thank you, Jess. Great. Item 4.5, Town Common Request, Arabic Evangelical Baptist Church event, submitting requests to move their approved event from May 28th, 2023 to June 25th, 2023.
Is this also a change in times? 9 AM to 6 PM, did we approve something for that longer period of time? Many hours?
That's a good question. I saw that on the application as well. Jess, would you be able to reference the original application?
That was the original
That is it.
application, that was approved by the board.
The 9 AM to 6 PM.
That's correct.
We can go back to the minutes too if we need to.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm assuming that perhaps, given the setup that they're suggesting, that the 9 o'clock start time is just the time they need to prepare
For the setup.
the setup, and that the actual event may be beginning at a later time in the morning or early afternoon. But yeah, we had approved it before.
Okay. So this is just a date change. Pleasure of the board.
I might have had problems, but if we're just changing dates to something we already approved, I go
Right.
along with it. So moved.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Plasko, seconded by Ms. Grow. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Unanimous. Item 4.6, automatic amusement license application, Hometown Arcade. Submitting request for an automatic amusements license for Harvey's One-Up Arcade LLC, doing business as Hometown Arcade for their establishment located at 61 Endicott Street, Building 26A. They are requesting licenses, 3 different types of machines, 38 arcade machines, 14 pinball machines, and 6 sports games. I think this is the first one I've had since I've been on the board. It's
This is-
kind of cool. Questions or comments from the board?
Yeah,
It's a
I'm
little charge.
kind
Glasgow?
of, yeah, well, we charge for all of those licenses, so that's nice. Not that we're gonna get rich on it, but I'm concerned about the location and the activity. This particular activity down there, is this even approved for that?
He'll need to pull a building permit and make sure that it conforms with building code and zoning. As a reminder, anything the board approves doesn't negate any other licenses, permits, or requirements that any business has to operate.
Yeah. One of their big tenants, did they move out entirely? Remarkable.
They've had a few move out.
Yeah, so I was also gonna say we might be getting saturated over there with parking and activity, but some tenants have moved out, as we just said, so maybe that's not a concern.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make sure they pull a building permit and we'll look at that closely. As far as the, if it meets all other conditions like the zoning on the property and everything, then I guess I move approval.
Motion to approve made by Mr. Plasko, seconded by Mr. Sad. Pleasure of the board.
Aye.
I'm sorry. I just had a question, I'm sorry. So are we saying that we're approving, Mr. Manager, but that the building department would still need to weigh in? But as far as I can tell, I think I've been saying some things, they're already kind of set up there. So what is-
Correct, and I'm not sure whether
Okay.
they need a building permit, I just want to make it clear that any other requirements they have to meet, the board granting somebody a license doesn't negate anything else anyone has to do. They can't say, well, the board granted us a license, so
Right.
we don't need to make electrical improvements, or the zoning is relevant. So if you were to issue a license and it turns out that there's some final work they need to do with the building inspector, the plumbing inspector, or zoning, they still have to comply with all that.
Okay. Great. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And chair votes aye, unanimous? Great. Okay, the next item is item 4.7, AM Boston Ventures Incorporated License Amendment Request. Submitting request from AM Boston Ventures, Inc., doing business as Aston Martin Boston, to change the address on their Class 1 auto dealer license from 700 Boston Providence Turnpike to 961-981 Boston Providence Turnpike.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve made by Mr. Donnelly, seconded by Mr. Plasko. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes yes. Unanimous. Sorry. Item 4.8, Alexandria Real Estate Equities Donation. Submitting 2 donations from Alexandria Real Estate Equities, 1 donation for the Bernie Cooper Scholarship Fund, and a second to offset the cost of the high volume of inspectional services that will be occurring in the near future. Mr. Manager, if you'd like to expand on this.
Sure, one of these is just a donation from a corporate partner who's donated to other functions in the town in the past. The other is a process where we make a point of asking very large developments if they can help offset the cost of the regular inspections, even though they pay a permit fee. It's become a common practice in the area. Westwood has done this with University Station. Rentham and Walpole have done it. With all the volume of work at Moderna, we've asked that when they pull their large permit for the biobank building, that they also contribute to make sure we can continue to not have a disruption in inspection services. It's hard for us to have a sort of a surge capacity. This allows us to rearrange, and at least for the next year, have that surge capacity.
Great. Mr. Donnelly?
The donation itself, does it go into the general fund, or does it go into a building fund of some sort? or
No,
back
most
to
of
the-
them, we don't have an agency fund set up for building, so most towns treat it as a donation for the purpose of providing these additional services.
Anything else on the matter? Mr. Plasko?
Yeah, a question on the donation of $10,000 for the Bernie Cooper Scholarship Fund. Why isn't that going to like the Scholarship Foundation? Are we going to be managing our own through Town Hall?
Correct.
And if so, I don't think we should be approving it. I can accept the money, but I think we want to know about the scholarship and what the particulars are, or how it's going to be awarded. what
Sure,
kind
so
of
we're still doing a little bit
individuals
of-
are gonna be.
Sure, we're still doing a little bit of research. There's a state statute that we adopted quite a while ago that allows you to set up a local scholarship fund, not what our scholarship association does. We're trying to do the research to see, we accepted in what we've done since with that from the town side. This allows the town to have a scholarship fund.
Okay.
There's some administrative work, so there's nothing that's gonna come out of it, it's just accepting the donation for that purpose.
Well, my condition would be that we get a proposal to the scholarship, when it's going to be for, and how it's going to be awarded and so forth for the board to approve. So I would make a motion, Mr. Chairman, accept these donations under Chapter 4453A for the stated purposes.
Motion made by Mr. Plasko, seconded by Mr. Sad. All those in favor?
Aye.
The chair votes aye, unanimous. Great. Thank you. So, Mr. Manager, when that information's ready, we'll have it on the...
Yeah, it's gonna take, as I said, it's gonna take us some time. We're just trying to research. We adopted the local option probably 20 years ago. We're just not sure what we've done from there. We don't want to replicate it, so there's just some research that needs to take place.
Okay.
And then the particular.
Correct, that's sort of step 2.
Great. Item 4.9, bond notes sale approval. Submitting request from town accountant Meg LeMay to review and approve results from the sale of bonds and notes. Mr. Manager?
Just perfunctory items from the capital plan as we go out to bond, the board is required to approve and sign off on that. We are still upheld as a AA+ community.
Great. Mr. Plasko?
I was just going to say, the members have a copy of the information from the treasurer's office on the bond. We need to take a vote, so if you'll accept, I make a motion that the maximum useful life of the 2 new ambulances be financed with the proceeds of $1,100,000 portion of $10,086,504 fiscal year 2023 capital improvements bonds borrowing authorized by the vote of town passed November 14, 2022. Article 9, Motion 2, is hereby determined pursuant to general laws, Chapter 44, Section 7I or 1I, to be 10 years. And for the record, across our minutes, the remainder of the very technical and long-winded motion that we have before us, ending in further voted that each member of the Board of Selectmen, the town clerk, and the town treasurer be and hereby are authorized to take any and all such actions and execute to deliver such certificates, receipts, or other documents as may be determined by them or by any of them to be necessary or convenient to carry into effect the provisions of the foregoing votes.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Plasko,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Grow. All those in favor?
Aye.
The chair votes aye, unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Plasko. Item 4.10, Council on Aging reappointments. Submitting requests to reappoint Martha Colamaria, Alan Howard, and Betty Mastandrea to the Council on Aging. Questions or concerns?
So move with pleasure.
Motion made
Yeah.
by Mr. Plasko,
Second?
seconded by Ms. Grow. All those in favor of reappointing these individuals to the Council on Aging?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. Great. Item 4.11, April licenses, submitting to the board for approval. Jess, do we need to read all of these?
No, we do not.
Okay, sounds good. We've got junk collectors, bowling alleys, public amusement, pool tables. Pleasure of the board.
Motion to approve the license renewals submitted.
Motion to approve the license renewals as submitted, made by Mr. Donnelly, seconded by.
This
Mr. Sanders.
this whole list was on our agenda for public record.
Great.
So I would second it if it hasn't already been.
Seconded by Mr. Sad. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. Great. Item 4.12, facilities MOU with school committee for approval and signature of the board. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Several years ago, when we formed the Facilities Department, there was a joint MOU that was created. It has been amended 2 or 3 times since. This is the latest round of amendments. And there's no significant changes. It just continues to evolve with the department.
Great. And if you could just expand a little bit on the hiring of the director and that practice.
Sure. So what we establish is that the general manager is the appointing authority, but we use a process similar to what the personnel board does, that when it comes time to hire a new facilities director, and obviously we're not there at the moment, we establish a preliminary screening committee. The superintendent, members of his administration are part of that. The preliminary screening committee worked with the Human Resources Department, comes up with a list of viable finalist candidates, and passes those along to the manager for appointment.
Great. Any questions or comments for the manager?
No, I was part of the group that originally started this negotiating, and there's a few things in it that I don't think are really relevant or needed, but they don't do us any harm, and it does make a better document than the previous document, so I would go along with it.
Okay. So we need a motion to approve
So
and
moved.
sign. Made by Mr. Plasko, seconded
Second?
by Ms. Grow. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. Item 4.13, tax increment financing request from FM Global for discussion. Mr. Manager.
Thank you. This is we have received a request from FM Global for to look into whether or not we would be willing to consider a tax incrementing financing district. We have had other ones in the past with this particular company. We've done other ones recently with other companies. Generally, the Board of Selectmen has forwarded these to the Economic Development Commission to investigate and render an opinion to the board.
Okay. And if you could talk a little bit about their proposal, what the work they're doing.
Sure. They own several parcels along Route 1, the FM Global building. They own their lab in the rear. They're right adjacent to the Four Points Hotel, and they do own the Dedham Medical Associates. They are in the permitting process to tear down the building along Route 1, which is about a 100,000 square foot building, and build a brand new 300,000 square foot building. FM Global has been in town for many years. They're a Fortune 500 company. They're tripling the size in their building, bringing additional jobs into town. They're constructing a parking garage on the site. All in all, a win for the town. They're sort of cementing Norwood as their global training center, which it has been for many decades, but this really cements Norwood as where they'll be bringing engineers from London and Singapore in to do their training, as well as all their other locations throughout the country.
That's great, thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
I would,
Mr. Donnelly?
no, you go ahead. I was gonna just make a motion, but you.
My only thought was, before we give anything away back to the store, there's a lot of people with their tax bills and stuff that are suffering because of the cost of it. So we have to look at that picture of transferring some of that into some of the tax bills if we can.
Great, thank you, Mr. Stead. Mr. Plasko?
I just wanted to explain that the process is that Economic Development Committee will meet with them, review with them, talk with them, and if they think it makes sense at all, make a recommendation back to this body.
Right.
We have to approve it, and then it still has to go to town meeting and be approved by town meeting. So, and then also the state. So we're not making any final decisions here. It's just a start of whether, the recommendation could even come back, it doesn't make sense for the town, or to give them a minimum one, or to give them a major one. It depends on how those negotiations and discussions go as to just how meaningful this is to the community.
I went to that, Mr. Chairman, I went to that hearing at the senior center. It was impressive. They're gonna build a college there, and they're gonna come to Norwood, as I said during the campaign. These companies love Norwood for the tax break, the water, the electricity, and they're all gonna start just infiltrating Norwood, so we have to be very smart about this.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Mr. Donnelly?
I'll make a motion to refer the request to the Economic Development Committee for their recommendation.
Great. Motion made by Mr. Donnelly, seconded by Mr. Sad. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. Great. Thank you, Mr. Mizuko. Item 4.14, MBTA Advisory Board Designee Appointment for discussion. Mr. Mizuko?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have had Joe Collins serve in this role for several years. The role is up for reappointment, and we'd recommend that we reappoint Joe. He has moved his way onto the executive committee of the MBTA Advisory Board.
Does he want to run it?
Joe is far too smart for that job.
Yeah.
I'm surprised to find anyone who wants to run it, but it's several years ago we started consolidating some of our transportation-related functions in a singular position, and we sort of dumped this on Joe to do, and he's done great with it, so we recommend we reappoint him to it.
That's great. That's good to hear. Pleasure of the board.
Motion to reappoint him.
Motion to reappoint Mr. Joe Collins as the MBTA Advisory Board designee, made by Mr. Sad,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Donnelly. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. Great. Item 4.15, MAPC Delegate and Alternate Appointment for discussion. Mr. Mizuko.
Thank you. We annually appoint, every several years, we appoint somebody to the MAPC, which is the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, really Boston's large planning organization for the greater Boston region. The organization has been around since planning agencies began to go in the late 40s and early 50s. It's historically been the planning director. With what we have going on over the next few years with the master plan and restaffing up the planning department, the recommendation we have is that a board member take this appointment for several years, and that Ms. Bouchard, our planning director, would be the alternate.
Okay. And if you read your packets, we had Ms. Groh. Ms. Groh, I apologize. I don't even think we got a chance to talk about this. Town meeting kind of throws everything off, and it's kind of a crazy week leading up to. But we're going to put you on the spot.
I think it'd be fun. I was checking even when their next meetings and such, and it seems like something that I can totally fit in, so.
Great.
Move the recommendation. No further delay.
Yep, excellent. Great. So motion made by Mr. Plasko, seconded by Mr. Sad. Motion made to appoint Ms. Groh as the delegate, and do we have to make a motion to appoint?
I would also say as point Sarah as the alternate.
And a motion to appoint Ms. Bouchard as the alternate.
I think we're a little tardy in getting this nomination made, so can we make sure it goes in right away?
Yes.
Yeah, I was checking their website last night, and it still lists us as vacant for both slots,
Okay,
so.
we'll get on it. Thank you. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. Congratulations, Mr. Brown. Great. Item 4.16, job performance evaluation discussion. Selectman Plasko is listed as for discussion, but if you'd like to lead it off, or if you have
Well, you have a letter
comments.
from me with the recommendation, or the request, I guess I'll call it, that in the past, we've done these job evaluations. They're in most of our job descriptions. General manager, we did two of them, I believe. The first one I thought was pretty meaningful. Second one, not so much, things that were going on. And then I think with COVID and everything, it just kind of went by the wayside. But I think it's something that's very important, not only for the individual being reviewed and job description performance evaluated, but also for the board to go through the process and to identify performance strengths and perhaps opportunities for further development. So I'm basically requesting the board consider, and I also came when I thought about Mr. Donnelly's addition to the board, that his background of many years would be very helpful in getting a good process going here. So induced me to bring it forward once again. So I'm requesting the board vote to establish a process for the review and evaluation of the general manager's job performance to date, identifying specific achievements and areas of improvements. This process must also allow for performance feedback, identifying strengths and opportunities for development. Selectmen shall provide general manager with a written summary of his evaluation and shall provide an adequate opportunity for the general manager to discuss his evaluation. The process should also include an opportunity for the general manager and the selectmen to jointly develop goals and objectives for at least the coming year. And added to that would be my recommendation, or the chair's choice, but my recommendation that we ask Mr. Donnelly to take that and further expand it and lead us in this evaluation process.
Thank you, Mr. Plasko. On the motion, that was a motion, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And I will say too, having been on the board for a few years, I think your letter stated it nicely, that because of the way that we were operating for about a year and a half of the time that I was on, things maybe just got lost a little bit in the shuffle. And one of the things was making sure that we formalized this process, got back into it. And I appreciate you not laying blame on other members for not picking up the slack.
We didn't
there.
do it last year, and I was chairman, so if we're setting blame.
But I think this would be a good thing, and I think it would be helpful for you, Mr. Mizuko. There's just always a lot going on, and I think getting this stuff down on paper will be helpful for us, helpful for you, and so that we can continue the good relationship that you have with the board, but also with your reporting departments, and so that you can voice concerns to us as well. So I appreciate the memo that you put together, Mr. Plasko. Any other questions or comments?
Is there a second?
Second, no.
Yes.
Congratulations, Bob.
Thank you, Mike.
I want to volunteer people.
This is great, volunteer. Motion made by Mr. Plasko, seconded by Mr. Sad. All those in favor?
On the motion.
Oh, sorry.
Just-
Yeah, on the motion, Ms. Grow.
I think this is a great idea. I'm really excited about it. It's really good for professional development in general, right? Like, how can a person know where they have the opportunity to grow to if we never are communicating that actively and collaborating on it? So I think it'll be really awesome.
Yeah, and we'll do them on live TV, right?
Yeah,
We'll do that.
and well, it's good for us to all together too, instead of maybe individually having discussions.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's important for me to know board members' priorities as well. That's one of the
Well,
challenges
that's why I
where,
was setting the goals and everything.
yeah, the last time we did it, that worked well in some areas and it didn't work as well in other areas, but it's important to know what the board as a whole thinks, and also to know that, individual members might be very interested in particular items and other members have no interest in them. It helps us sort of chart the course. It's very helpful to me.
Agreed, thank you. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. Thank you again, Mr. Plasko, for putting that together. Okay, next up, memoranda, great.
Motion to file, all
motion-
memorandum.
Motion to file made by Mr. Plasko, seconded by Ms. Grow. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. That brings to the manager's update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will keep it brief as I had promised. One announcement for the board, although we did put the press release out. You can see a little bit on the image there. I have appointed Tim Bailey as the Norwood Fire Chief. Chief Bailey has served in the Walpole Fire Department for the bulk of his career, and he has been the chief there for the last 18 or so years. He will begin with us on or about the first week of July, and we are happy to have him join us.
Great, that's great.
And Chief Wright will be serving until then.
Thank you. It was great to have him in, and I think that, like Mr. Donnelly said, we've been hearing a lot of good things about him, so I'm glad that he's been here, and it's an exciting time.
Absolutely.
Anything further?
That's all.
Great. Okay, Selectmen's addenda. We'll start with Mr. Sad.
A few things. I just want to thank everybody that came to the fishing derby, helped out. It was a successful fishing derby. We had a great turnout. Weather was a little chilly, but the DJ was great, the fish pit. So it was a great event for the whole Norwood community area. Secondly, we had Helen's retirement party, surprise. And it was a surprise right till she got to the front door. But I want to thank everybody that came and made it successful. It was I did fix the chair, so it's all fixed, and I'll be delivering that tomorrow, so happy retirement, Helen. Second thing is if Mr. Manager can check on a pole at, I think it's 95 Pleasant Street. It's been down or hanging on for a year, and they called me and they wanted to see if you could look into that. I thank you. And the other thing is a sad note for Coach Nandelli. His father passed away, Joseph, and Cheryl and the entire family. Our condolences for the whole family, and we'll miss him, and our condolences from myself and maybe the board as far as the passing of Joseph Nandelli. That's all I have.
Very nice. Thank you, Mr. Sad. Ms. Crowe.
Hi, so I've got green things to talk about tonight, two different fun things. So one of them is the reminder that the farmer's market will be back on the common this season. So that'll be Tuesdays, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. If you know a vendor or are a vendor that want to join up with the farmer's market, you can reach out to them at norwoodmafm@gmail.com. And then if you'd like to take a crack at growing your own vegetables, it turns out that the community garden has some extra spots open. This would be for Norwood residents only, and the growing technique would be for organic growing. But if you want to plot at the community garden, they've got some spots, and you can reach out to them at norwoodmacommunitygarden@gmail.com.
Great. Anything further?
And that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Crowe. Mr. Plasko.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one sad note. People watching tonight's meeting might have seen behind the chairman on our name plaque of selectmen that have served the town, a black bunting. That's in respect for Gary Lee, Selectman Gary Lee, passed away last weekend. And, you know, Gary served for 17 years. I think I served with him for 6. And one thing that's sure about Gary is a gentleman is dedicated to his faith, dedicated to his family, and to the town of Norwood. And so our sympathy goes out to Marguerite and his girls, 4 beautiful girls. And just want to make it known that we did lose Gary and respect everything he did for the community.
Thank you, Mr. Plasko.
Thank you.
That was very nice. Mr. Donnelly.
Just a couple of things, just community-wise. So this Saturday, May 13th, is the Letter Carriers Food Drive. So if you are able to leave a bag of non-perishable food near your mailbox, the letter carrier will pick it up. This drive is in support of the Norwood Food Pantry. You can go to norwoodfoodpantry.org to view the list of most needed items. So if you can donate that to a great cause, certainly the Norwood Food Pantry could use the donations to serve the needs of the community. Also want to offer congratulations to, and get this, Tony, you thought Kathy Carney at 38 years, very long service with the town of Norwood. We have Michelle DeGrazio at the library, who is retiring 52 and a half years. If you've met Michelle, you wonder if she started when she was in kindergarten. In any event, there's a very nice event the library is having in honor of her retirement for Michelle. That will be on Friday, May 26th. It's an open house from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Stop by and wish Michelle the best in her retirement. 52 and a half years. It's a rare thing you see these days, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. And I just wanted to mention that the good job that everyone that works on town meeting, putting that together, did last night. And also kind of give a shout out to the town meeting members. There were some zoning articles, and they're sensitive issues, and I thought the decor of the meeting was really civil, and I like that. And I think even though one side was probably more vocally against the article, I think that, you know, we operated as a body really well, and so I would just like to say thanks to all the town meeting members that attended, and we'll see everyone on Thursday night. Nothing further from the board. We have a motion to adjourn.
Executive session.
Hello.
Motion to
All
go into
right.
executive session.
Mr. Chairman, one,
Yes, Mr. Said.
one issue, I just forgot, I see a lot of signs around town. The garden club's got a plant sale this weekend at the Hawes Pool.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if you can make it Saturday between 9 and 3, they do a lot of hard, great work, and I just want to remember that because I forgot about it.
Yeah, I meant that
Great.
one as well.
Yeah.
Good plug.
Good catch. I seen the signs and I had made a mental note to mention it,
Why
and I
am I great
didn't.
fish?
You can get your plants and then take them to the community garden. See,
Okay.
one fell swoop.
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to go into executive session.
Motion to go into executive session made by Mr. Donnelly, seconded.
Second.
Yeah.
Yeah. The stated purpose,
Collective bargaining and possible real property. 2 and 6.
Yeah.
should those be read? Is
No,
that-
that's, probably should say something about the purpose, and I think that's enough.
Okay. Motion made by Mr. Donnelly to go into executive session, seconded by Ms. Grow. All those in favor?
All right.
Chair votes aye. Thank you.